baseball.
At Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Philadelphia Phillies. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Mazda. Driving matters. By Spectrum. Hey, Mets fans, join America's fastest growing TV, internet, and voice provider. Get the Spectrum Triple Play today. By True Green, America's #1 professional lawn care company. Start today. Live life outside. And by Toyota. Tested, trusted. Toyota. Toyota. Let's go places. Well, New York is home to us, but it's also a great tourist spot. Riding the Staten Island Ferry, taking in the Statue of Liberty, all on the water. Even some of the greatest photos you can take from the water. New York, our home. A little chilly on the water today. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling with you tonight as the Mets play the middle game of their series against the Phillies. Mets have lost 4 in a row, and part of the issue for the Mets is the slow start for their erstwhile leadoff hitter, Jose Reyes. You know, it's an interesting formulation for any manager when one of his veteran players is off to a difficult start. He's got tools in his toolbox as to how to accomplish what he wants to get that guy going, but it's not easy to know which ones to use.
You know, Gary, and I think also in this town it's a little more difficult. When a team is 7-7, they're supposed to be off to a better start. The media really wants to identify what the problem is, and so far a lot of it has been leaning Reyes' way. Now, when you think of Jose Reyes, you think of a guy who had a lot of success here in this town, so you don't worry about that. He's also had to go through, in a long career, a lot of mental challenges because that's going to come up when you play for such a long time. The only issue I see, really, for Jose is that after the batting title here, he really hasn't been that kind of dynamic player. So what are you expecting from Jose as he moves along? You know, the one thing Terry Collins said, though, he's going to give him 100 to 125 at-bats before he sees what he's going to do.
He has 50 at-bats so far, hitting just 100. Made a key error last night that cost the Mets the game. Today's quote of the game presented by Investors Bank, banking in your best interest. Terry Collins, after the game last night, said he would not be in this league as long as he has been if he couldn't handle things mentally. And so it's up to Reyes to figure it out and get himself going. As for the pitcher tonight, it's Robert Gsellman, whose ERA dropped dramatically this afternoon when a hit was turned into an error in his last start in Miami. 4 earned runs taken off his ledger, but he needs a good start to get himself going.
You know, those runs are taken off his ledger, like you said, Gary, but he has not pitched well. He had a great spring training. We have not seen any of that so far for Robert. We haven't seen that power sinker. We haven't seen the ability to generate ground balls. Hopefully it starts tonight for Robert.
And for the Phillies, their erratic, hard-throwing right-hander Vince Velasquez.
It's really hard to explain. 8-2 in his first 15 starts, 0-6 in his last 11. Most of it coming off the giving up of the long ball. Velasquez is going to try to keep the ball in the park tonight.
As you can see, with Velasquez blowing on his hands, it's going to be a chilly night here at Citi Field tonight. Things moving quickly in Bryant Park. Mets and Phillies at Citi Field. All the action coming your way on SNY. Baseball on SNY is brought to you by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, dedicated to advancing cancer research, treatment, and care. More science, less fear. By the State Farm agent of the game, Pat Cawley of Glendale, New York. Contact Pat at patcawley.com. And by Papa John's. Get 50% off pizzas at papajohns.com with promo code METS6 the day after the Mets score 6 or more runs. Save 65% on tickets this homestand now through April 27th at Citi Field. Tickets are available at select seating areas on a first-come, first-served basis while supplies last. To purchase tickets, visit Mets.com/strikeouts. SNY Super Slow Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. Robert Gsellman getting set for his third start of the year. Met fans are ready. Gsellman's first pitch is coming right up. Robert Gsellman set to go. Cesar Hernandez leads off. First pitch of the night is fouled back, and we're underway a minute early.
Maybe after the game, 4 hours last night, everyone's ready to go.
There's your Hyundai starting lineup for the Phillies. One change. Aaron Altair, who had a pinch hit in the 4-1 10th for the Phils, gets the start in left field. A ball and a strike to Hernandez, who was 2 for 6 last night and is riding an 11-game hitting streak, batting .345 to start the year. Corners in against Hernandez. And Gsellman fires a fastball for a strike, 1-2.
There's the Land Rover numbers for Gsellman. Really, it's the right-handed batters that have hurt him. They're 10 for 23. Left-handed batters 3 for 20.
Now that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
2-2 to Hernandez with Altair and Herrera to follow. Phillies beat the Mets last night in 10 innings. Their first win in 4 tries against the Mets this year. Gsellman started the 16-inning game in Miami on Thursday. Got in on the fists of Hernandez, and it's still 2-2. Gsellman was originally charged with 8 earned runs in that game, but there were 2 questionable scoring decisions, and the Mets challenged them both. One was overturned and became an error on Neil Walker, and that saved Gsellman the 4 earned runs. And a foul tip, and Hernandez is struck out to start the night. The other one, the error on T.J. Rivera, that I thought was even a worse scoring decision, was upheld. Otherwise, they could have taken away all 8 earned runs.
Well, defensively, the Lexus defense, the same outfield there with Curtis back in the lineup. Conforto out, even though Conforto has 2 home runs against Velasquez. Reyes, Cabrera, Walker, and Duda in the infield, and Darno again behind the plate.
Here's Aaron Altair, and he takes a curveball from Gsellman for a strike. Altair had an RBI single in the 4-1 10th inning for the Phillies last night. And he strokes one out to right, and right there is Jay Bruce to grab it. 2 men down. So 2 out and nobody on, and now their mercurial Odubel Herrera will step in. Herrera homered in the first inning last night to get the Phillies started against Zach Wheeler. That's all Wheeler gave up over his 5 innings of work. 5 being the operative number, and the Met bullpen had to turn in 5 more innings last night. They have faced more batters than any bullpen in the National League so far this year. And the hope is that things will change soon. Hope is A, that Met starters will be allowed to go a little deeper in games as the season winds along. And of course, tomorrow is the day Jeurys Familia becomes eligible to join the Mets bullpen, which takes a little pressure off everybody else.
Well, it really could start tonight, Gary, with Gesellman. I think a pitcher in their rotation probably has the best chance to be economic with his pitches and keep that pitch count down so they can go a little deeper in the game.
And Herrera fouls off the 2-0 fastball. Herrera 2 for 5 last night. Gesellman made 3 starts against the Phillies last year. It went well for him. 2-1, 2.37 against Philadelphia. Just 23 years old. And Herrera strokes 1 foul. It's 2-2. Stephen Matz and Seth Lugo were supposed to start their throwing programs today, but both are significant ways away from any thought of getting back to the major leagues. And so Gesellman holds on to his spot in the rotation and should have many more chances to get things turned in the right direction. 2-2 coming, and Herrera gets jammed and somehow fouls it off.
That ball almost hit him in the glove, one of his batting gloves. Look how far this gets in, and it didn't break the bat. That's even more amazing.
If he hadn't swung the bat, it might have hit him. And Herrera with the emergency hack fouls it off.
Well, he is one of those hitters that can look awfully bad on a swing and then the next swing look perfect.
Michael Franco on deck. 49 degrees at game time. A little cooler than it was last night when the Mets and Phillies played nearly 4 hours in a chill. 7th pitch of the at bat coming to Herrera, and he just got a piece of that one.
The slider there from Gesellman. You're saying that Herrera is mercurial. I know what the definition of that is, but maybe there's an extra one for him. His procrastination in the box can make you angry, but his talent can sometimes make you angrier. He had a home run last night.
So you're saying he's like slow Mercury.
There you go. The red kind.
That would be an oxymoron. Again, the 2-2 on the inside corner, got him looking. So Gesellman strikes out 2 in a 1-2-3 opening inning, and Odubel Herrera goes away unhappy. Gesellman starts the night with a strikeout and picks up 2 in the opening inning. Mets come to bat in the bottom of the 1st with no score. Pretty much the same combination for the Mets. Michael Conforto started last night at center field. Curtis Granderson back in that spot and leading off against hard-throwing Vince Velasquez.
See his Toyota numbers. Velasquez came over from the Houston Astros in the Ken Giles deal. Two big pitchers, Mark Appel and Velasquez.
17 strikeouts in 9 innings, but 7 walks and 9 earned runs in those 9 innings. Granderson off to his typical slow start, hitting at 170. Between Reyes and Granderson batting leadoff, and Conforto last night as well, Met leadoff hitters are 0 for their last 22. The last time the Mets had a longer 0 for streak from their leadoff hitters was in 1976. Granderson pops one straight up. Franco waiting for it to come down, and one hands it, not without a little difficulty, but at least he held on. 1 out.
Well, we've seen when the ball is hit this high, it goes kind of over the top of the stadium and starts to move. And it didn't seem like anyone else wanted to really catch that, so Franco was on his own.
At least there was nobody in his way.
Yeah, that was the big difference in the game last night, right?
I was very intrigued, you know, on that play where Reyes dropped the pop-up last night. There were several mistakes made, right?
Sure.
Reyes didn't catch the ball. Darno kind of got in his way. And Freddie Galvis didn't hustle, so he wound up at first base rather than at second. And I thought it was instructive that all 3 players did complete mea culpas after the game. They all, you know, accepted responsibility for their shortcomings on that play. As Dribble Cabrera takes a breaking ball low, 1-1.
You know, I was pretty hard on Freddie Galvis, so you like to see that you know, he understood what he did was wrong, probably was embarrassed by it, and probably won't happen again, or hope it won't happen again.
Cabrera 0 for 4 last night.
You know, I think that you know, Gary, in today's game, I think it's hard for players sometimes to admit that they did something wrong, because there's so many outlets and so many places where people can go with it. But to see players say, hey, listen, I got to make that play. That's a simple play. At this level, I got to do it. I don't know. It means a lot to their teammates. It means a lot to people who watch the games. I think it's very, very important to just fess up. It's not a big deal. And that way, even on your own thing, you kind of wash it away.
You know, it's what we always have said about playing in New York, but it's really true everywhere.
Yeah.
If you just say, I messed up, everything goes away.
So true.
As opposed to, you know, trying to make excuses, and then all of a sudden it becomes a bigger issue. Full count to Cabrera, because, you know, over 162 games, everybody's going to make some mistakes.
The only problem is late in my Met career, when you're doing it 20 out of the 32 starts, that becomes a little bit of a problem.
Then they don't want to talk to you anymore.
That's
anyway.
right.
3-2 to Cabrera with Cespedes on deck, and as Dribble fouls one away. So the 0 for 23 now from Met leadoff hitters, longest drought since an 0 for 30 in 1976. The culprits there:
Yeah.
Del Unser,
Okay.
Mike Phillips, Leon Brown, and Wayne Garrett.
I was going to say Wayne Garrett. Del Unser known more as a Philly, right, than a Met.
He had a really good year for the Mets. That's taken low, ball 4, and Cabrera draws a rare walk. Only the 3rd time he's walked this season.
Well, defensively for the Phillies, a couple of changes from last night. Aaron Altair is in left field. Michael Saunders showed some great speed last night. Herrera is their star in center field. Franco, third base. Galvis, Hernandez up the middle. Tommy Joseph hasn't gotten the bat going, but he's at first base. And Cameron Rupp, who had a big sac fly in last night's game.
So here is Cespedes with a runner aboard. Yoenis 1 for 4 last night. Cabrera at first and 1 out. And Velasquez misses away.
So when we looked at the stats of Velasquez, what it tells you is that if he gets ahead of you, he's got the pitches to put you away with the 17 punch-outs. But when he gets behind and has to come in with that fastball, he really has gotten hurt, especially with line drives and home runs.
He's had a full week between starts since he faced the Mets last week in Philadelphia. Walked 4 in 5 innings in that game. Fell behind 5-0. That's the game where Zach Wheeler pitched so well into the 6th. Michael Franco hit a grand slam, and the Mets hung on to win it 5-4. Velasquez 1-2 lifetime over 4 starts against the Mets with an ERA about 3.5. He looked great against them last year at this time. Goes upstairs to get ahead on Cespedes, 1-2.
I mentioned the stat before. His first 15 starts, he was 8-2. His ERA was a little over 3. Last 11 starts, 0-6. ERA almost approaching 6.
I mean, he had that game early last season against San Diego where he struck out 16, walked none, pitched a 3-hit shutout. One of the better games any Philly has ever thrown. And the curveball grounded down to third, might be 2. Franco to Hernandez on the turn, not in time. High throw by Franco made it difficult for Hernandez to turn it over. And so they settle for the 5-4 fielder's choice.
Well, when you're trying to go around the horn, you've got to have a little more on the ball and accurate throw than you had from Franco here and Hernandez.
Did he stay on the bag?
Well, that's what I was saying.
I don't think he did.
I would argue it if I were the Mets. He jumped off the bag to catch the ball and landed in front of second base.
And no inkling of a challenge from the Mets. Interesting. Because he certainly did not appear to be on the bag with the ball.
Yeah, the vicinity play is gone.
So Cespedes at first with 2 out. And now Jay Bruce. And the fastball in for a strike.
Let's see if his foot is on the base when he catches it. Up in the air, no. It's up in the air when he caught the ball. To me.
Maybe his toe was on the bag, but it would be only barely. Curveball pulled over the bag. That's a fair ball going down the line, and it'll roll toward the corner. Cespedes digging for third. Saunders trying to pick it up. Cespedes runs through the stop sign. Relay to the plate. The tag out. Terrific relay by Tommy Joseph, backing up that throw from right field. And the first baseman throws out Cespedes at the plate. Glenn Sherlock had hung up the stop sign, but Cespedes ran right through it, and he's gunned down at the plate for the 3rd out.
Well, nice job by Joseph to get rid of it quick and put something on it.
He threw that like the catcher he used to be.
Yes, he did.
And Rupp able to hold the ball on the tag.
Boy, that's close. He must have scraped his leg. Doesn't look like the Mets are going to challenge.
Ball just stuck in the webbing of Rupp's glove, and he then got the bare hand over it. You see the stop sign from Sherlock. But Cespedes trying to get the run in. Very close. But called out by Chad Whitson. And the Mets are turned aside in the bottom of the 1st. No score after 1. Michael Franco leads off the second inning against Robert Gsellman, who worked a 1-2-3 first inning. Franco 0 for 4 last night, now 0 for his last 17. And he pops one foul out of play, and it's 0-2. Franco, then Michael Saunders and Tommy Joseph. It was Saunders and Joseph who combined to throw out Yoenis Cespedes at the plate to end the bottom of the first on a double by Jay Bruce.
You were mentioning in between innings, Gary, there haven't been a lack of plays at the plate this year.
We've had a ton of them the last week. That series in Miami was rife with them. Curveball from Gsellman gets him looking. Third strikeout of the first 4 batters for Gsellman as he gets Franco with the hook. Let's look at that play at the plate again.
Well, hooked here by Bruce on the nose, and it gets by and gets into the right field. Now watch Saunders and watch Hernandez. Hernandez, who was in the shift, is too close. So Saunders throws it. Tommy Joseph backing up makes the quick throw to the plate. So you say to yourself, did Saunders miss the cutoff man? No. Hernandez was too far out, and good tag there by Cameron Rupp. Just got him on the knee before that foot hit the plate.
I think that part of it is really fascinating, Ronnie, that because Hernandez was playing well out into the outfield in the shift against Bruce, in order for him to be in the right position on the relay, he would have actually had to move closer to home plate, which is unusual for an infielder setting up a relay.
He would have honestly had to make like a defensive back and start to backpedal and get as far to the infield as he could because Saunders was so close.
1-1 to Saunders, who was 2 for 5 last night, and he lifts one foul. That'll go out of play.
Well, it's pretty obvious that Cespedes kind of is coaching his own running here. Sees the ball going to the corner. As he rounds second base, he'll look where the ball's at. When you are rounding second, going to third, you should be picking up your coach, because he looked back. He never saw Sherlock and never really saw that Sherlock had stopped him.
And that's inside, and I think Saunders was hit by that pitch. It got him. He'll go to first base, hit by a pitch ball. First batter Gsellman has hit this year. The other thing about Cespedes, when he looked over his shoulder, he had to adjust to find third base.
He had to adjust, and he also it slowed his gait also.
Pitch just grazing Saunders. So the Phillies have their first base runner of the night.
So you're looking back, and as he comes and he's trying to look down to make sure he tags third, he picks up the stop sign way too late and can't stop. I shouldn't say couldn't stop. He just decided not to stop.
At least he slid.
Right.
Here's Tommy Joseph, 1 for 4 last night.
Baby steps, Gary, baby steps.
Well, that was a nice play by Joseph, because first baseman's the cutoff man on that play, isn't usually asked to make a relay throw that way. And he made it perfectly, even though the throw coming in from Saunders was a little bit offline.
A lot of times what you'll hear, if you're the first baseman, you'll hear the catcher say, cut home, cut home, cut home. But a lot of times, if you're a first baseman, just listen to the crowd. If the crowd starts to get energized, you know the guy's rounding third and coming to home. And that's why Joseph had really got rid of that ball quickly.
Want to hear something great that happened this afternoon? The Mariners beat the Marlins this afternoon 10-5, which means they didn't come close to getting no hit like they did last night. In the 9th inning of that game, is the 2-0 pitch. It's pulled foul. In what will probably be his last at bat ever in Seattle, Ichiro Suzuki hit a home run.
No way.
How about that?
That's fantastic. Standing ovation for him on Monday night when he was there, and rightfully so. One of the greatest Mariners ever.
Right up there with Randy Johnson and Edgar Martinez and Junior Griffey. Should I anger the fans of the Bronx and say Jay Buhner?
That's Ken Phelps, right?
Right. Well, as George Costanza was very quick to remind. 3-1 to Joseph with Cameron Rupp on deck. sinker by Gazelman gets under the bat of Joseph. 3-2.
You know, that's why Phelps has been struggling so far. You know, 3-1 count, looking for a pitch, trying to do something big, and ball's out of the strike zone. Gazelman keeping the ball down a little better in this start early.
Saunders at first and 1 out. Not a lot of speed there, although he did a nice job going first to third last night. And he's running, and it's pulled down to third. Reyes is going to have to go to first with it in time for the out. So by putting Saunders in motion, the Phillies stay out of the double play. Saunders now at second with 2 out.
You know, you and I see a lot of games, Gary. I did not have the scouting report on Michael Saunders that he had that kind of speed. He's a big man, 6'4", 220, 215.
Just think he got a great read on that ball last night. And he went first to third easily to set the stage for the go-ahead run. So now 2 out, a runner in scoring position, and Cameron Rupp the batter. Rupp delivered the sac fly last night in the 10th, but otherwise went 0 for 2. He's hitting just 156 for the year. And a first pitch curveball out of the strike zone, ball 1.
One thing I've seen from Gazelman against the right-handed hitters, and I mentioned that he's been hurt by right-handed hitters so far in his first 2 starts. He has not been able to dot that outside corner. The ball he tries to throw away has been drifting back inside to the middle of the plate or inside the right-handed hitters.
That's the double-edged sword of the movement you get on that 2-seam fastball, right?
And that one was perfect right there. He dotted the outside corner.
The Phillies have had a ridiculous knack early in the season with 2 outs and runners in scoring position. They're hitting .348 as a team in these spots. Off the fists of foul ball. And it's 1 and 2 to Rupp. Pete McCannon's team has been hot driving in runners. Despite the fact they don't have a lot of big numbers in their lineup, they're averaging nearly 4.8 runs per game this season. Phillies are 5-8 to begin the year, while the Mets are 7-7. 1-2 coming. A late swing foul. Other day games today. Addison Russell hit a 3-run walk-off home run in the bottom of the 9th, and the Cubs overcame the Brewers 7-4. Dexter Fowler hit 2 home runs. Michael Wacha pitched well, and the Cardinals beat the Pirates 2-1. Cardinals seem to be coming out of their funk. That's back-to-back 2-1 victories for St. Louis in that series against Pittsburgh. Mike Leake pitched great last night. Again, the 1-2. Half swing. Did he go? He did not. Mets thought they had the call, but first base umpire Dan Iasonia said no. And it's 2-2 to Rupp.
Boy, everybody on the field, and even Cameron Rupp, I think, thought he swung. Let's see. No, I think Iasonia did a good job. I've talked to umpires about this play, and they always say the same thing. Did he attempt to swing at the ball? That's a real close one.
There's your crew. Chad Whitson, the youngest umpire of the crew, has the plate tonight. Sam Holbrook, the crew chief, out at second. 2-2 from Gazelman. And Rupp lays off that curveball. Now it's a full count. The number 8 hitter, Freddie Galvis, is on deck.
The slow start that Galvis has gotten off to. I think if you're Robert here, you got to make sure of this pitch. You just don't give in to Cameron Rupp, who's got some power.
3-2 coming. On the outside corner, he got him looking. 95 on the black. Rupp didn't think so. But Gazelman has his 4th strikeout. 3 of the 4 have come on call third strikes. That's about as right on the black as you can get. No score. Neil Walker leads off the home second inning for New York. Vince Velasquez sidestepped trouble in the first inning with Cespedes thrown out at the plate. Walker 0 for 4 last night. And he takes a strike on the outside. Walker, Duda, and Reyes for the Mets in the second. Saw those numbers for Walker. His right hand hitting has been far better than his left hand hitting early this season. And strangely enough, it was the same last year after it had been the reverse for his entire career up until last season.
Well, that might have been an important inning for Velasquez because the last 5 starts he's given up runs in the first inning. So that can give you a little confidence if you're a young pitcher and you've had a tough go of it.
Came within an eyelash of giving up a run in the first tonight. Saw Walker's numbers against right-handers, and really it's a team-wide thing. The Mets as a team are hitting 191 against right-hand pitching, 273 against left-hand pitching, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because the Mets are a predominantly left-hand hitting team. And the curveball in the dirt, 1-2 to Walker.
I hear those stats thrown around all the time in the NL West where people go, boy, struggling against left-handers in the NL West. Well, you got Bumgarner, you got Kershaw. There's a few good ones out there.
Tell you what, if Robbie Ray keeps pitching the way he did the other day, that's another one in Arizona.
You know, it's interesting. He's off-traded kind of player, and no one could really figure him out, but he's one of those left-handers, just took some time to figure it out, and he's a real strength now.
It's like a left-handed Velasquez.
Yeah.
Throws so hard.
Walker hits one deep to right center field. Back goes Herrera to the track. Back at the wall. He makes the catch right against the fence.
The ball seemed to die a little bit deep in the gap, and Herrera had just enough room to reel it in for a long first out.
You know, Gary, sometimes it's not only how you hit them, and he hits this right on the nose, it's when you hit them. And the ball certainly not traveling in April like it will later in the year. That'd be a home run any other time, but this one stays in the park. A nice play by Herrera, the converted infielder.
The only thing is, at this point last year, Neil Walker had 6 home runs already. Still looking for his first this year. It's one that he might have thought he had, but he comes up just shy. Here's Duda, and he takes a curveball for a strike. Lucas walked twice last night, otherwise 0 for 2. Well, you play in April in cold weather in the Northeast. It's going to cost you a few long balls, and when you're a team as reliant on the long ball as the Mets, sometimes that can be a bit of a liability.
You know, I was just thinking about Neil Walker, Gary, before his injury last year. You'd have to say that was one of the best years you'd ever want to have as a second baseman going into free agency.
Yeah.
But now he's got to double up and do it 2 years in a row because of that back injury.
1-2 to Duda. Well, 23 home runs last year for Neil, and that's with missing the last 5 weeks of the season.
Right.
Played a solid second base, hit .282, nice on base percentage. It's a position that is stacked in Major League Baseball these days, but Walker is right in that pack. Duda foul tips it, held by Rupp for strike 3. First strikeout of the night for Velasquez, who has averaged nearly 2 strikeouts per inning this season. You can win Mets tickets and a chance to be on the field to answer Mets trivia. Just follow SNY on Twitter during the 5th inning of tonight's game for details on how to enter the SNY 5th inning sweepstakes, presented by your local Ford dealer. So 2 out and nobody on. Now Jose Reyes, 1 for 4 last night, and double to the gap in right center. But more memorable was the ball he dropped in the 8th inning. 5 for 50 to start the year.
He played with an ex-Met that started his April 5 for 50 in 1990, right?
Another infielder with great hands, Kevin Elster. And now Velasquez behind Reyes, 3-0. Reyes has never had a 5 for 50 stretch at any point in a season before this. And he takes a strike.
Well, that's interesting because that's unprecedented that he's never gone through this kind of stretch.
Starno would be next. And Reyes takes ball 4. There's the second walk given up by Velasquez.
MLB.TV Premium is back and better than ever. Watch every out-of-market regular season game live on over 400 supported devices. Plus, get a free subscription to At Bat Premium. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. So Reyes is on first with 2 out, and now Travis d'Arnaud. d'Arnaud 0 for 4 last night. Well, we don't know where Reyes is at as far as his base stealing ability at this point in his career. But one thing's for certain, if you bat 7th, it's often hard to steal.
Yeah.
And this is a classic example. You got 2 out, you steal the base, they walk d'Arnaud and bring up Gazelman.
You know, you want to stay with where you're at, and you're hoping that d'Arnaud can lace out an extra base hit. Russ out for an early visit.
Whereas last night, Reyes was in a situation that cried out for a stolen base. He got on board in the 9th inning on a fielder's choice in a tie game. Strayed almost too far on a potential wild pitch and almost got himself caught going back to first base.
You know, you and I were talking about it today. Even in his heyday, when 60+ stolen bases, he was a guy that was interested in percentage and didn't always steal that base late.
Two and 0 to d'Arnaud. And I remember Keith talking about it often. It wasn't just that. It was that in situations that cried out for a steal, he wouldn't steal early enough in the count.
Yeah.
That he'd wait until late in the count, 1 and 2, 2 and 2, when you put the hitter in a difficult position, as opposed to stealing first or second pitch. But 488 stolen bases, that's nothing to sneeze at.
Well, base runners, if they're waiting until later in the count and they want to keep on trucking, they've got to sometimes do that because they're waiting for the breaking ball count to see something in the dirt that makes it easier to steal.
Two-1 to d'Arnaud on a breaking ball pulled down to third. Franco will go the short way and get the force to end the inning. A walk and 1 left after 2 at Citi Field. No score. Flushing Town Hall, right across the
Roosevelt Avenue Bridge from Citi Field. There's the library. Oh, there's a Starbucks. The Unisphere from World's Fair, 64 and 65.
If you're downtown Flushing, you got to go to Nanbei Ho, owned by Angela Mao. You ever been there?
I have not.
So all those great karate movies that I loved as a kid, when there was the heroine who would jump in and in the Bruce Lee movies or whatever, that's Angela Mao. She owns Nanbei Ho. So you have to try it.
All I know is there are about 10,000 great Korean barbecue places to go in Flushing.
There are.
And they're all great. Galvis rips one into right field for a leadoff hit as we start the 3rd inning. So Freddie Galvis, who was just 2 for his last 24 start in the night, has the first hit of the ball game against Robert Gsellman.
Fastball up. We talked about early in the game, the first couple of innings here. Gsellman's done a great job of keeping the ball down. That was one pitch he left up in the strike zone.
So now the Mets will look for the bunt from Vince Velasquez. Not a terrible hitter. 0 for 2 so far this year, looking for his first sacrifice, and Reyes in on the grass. And he's set to swing. Whacks one foul.
Saw this a little last year from Terry Collins in the Mets pitchers.
A little bit of light rain is falling, which doesn't make it any more comfortable on a cool, windy night. And now Velasquez is bunting and fouls it off, and now it's 0-2.
Well, I look at it this way. If the defense, and if you've done your scouting report on the team you're facing, if the defense is going to give you the bunt, even if you have a good hitting pitcher other than Bumgarner or someone like that, Zach Greinke, then you lay the bunt down. And the Mets, as a team, have always kind of given the bunt.
I would put Syndergaard in that equation too.
Syndergaard?
I would always let him swing.
Jake Arrieta?
Yeah, maybe. Double play ball if they hurry. Cabrera with the flip. The turn by Walker. In time for the double play. 2 men down. And that's the risk you run by letting your pitcher swing away. 6-4-3 double play.
Well, nice shovel here from Cabrera. And Walker took his time and put a little extra on that throw to first base. You know, I had a stat coming into this game, and 47 opportunities for a double play. Gsellman has only gotten 3.
Which is surprising because he's a sinker ball pitcher and has the highest percentage of ground ball outs of anybody on the Mets staff. Here's Cesar Hernandez with 2 outs, and he bluffs a bunt, takes a curveball outside. You have to figure that as Gsellman goes forward, that he's a guy who will generate more ground ball double plays. Of course, you're also working against hitters that are now determined to hit the ball in the air at every opportunity.
I think what is going to happen for Robert is that he's going to almost have to close his eyes when he's watching Harvey, DeGrom, and Syndergaard and not fall in love with the strikeout, and just know that pounding the strike zone, down in the strike zone, and letting the defense play is strength for him and his game.
Well, it'll also enable him to pitch deeper into games. And that's something that Syndergaard and Harvey have both done well this year. Work to have quicker innings to keep them in the game longer. Strike 3 call. Got him on the inside corner. That's 5 strikeouts through the first 10 batters for Gsellman. And 4 of the 5 have been caught looking. Middle of the 3rd, Mets and Phillies still no score. New York sports writers will have a preview of tomorrow's Rangers Game 5 matchup in Montreal. Plus, get you ready for Noah Syndergaard's start in tomorrow's game on Daily News Live, presented by Citi, tomorrow at 5, only on SNY. Robert Gsellman leads off in the home third. Gsellman in 2017 turned loose to swing the bat, which he couldn't do last year. 0 for 2 so far. Velasquez gets it even with him, 1-1.
Nice lid.
Home run apple hat.
That is a great hat.
Perfect for this night.
Or just mentioned the Canadians, or a toque, or Tim Burkhardt always had a name for it. That was a New Jersey term for that
yeah,
hat.
it was something incomprehensible.
That's right.
Out to right field, and Saunders goes back to get it. Gsellman makes good contact, and that's the first out. Well, Canadians call it a toque. What do French Canadians call it?
Oh, I don't know.
Do they also call it a toque?
Yeah, I think
it's a French word.
I think they call it a toque, but they had more influence, the French Canadians, over the entire province than the entire country.
Probably more attuned to the fashion
That's right.
of the country. There's Granderson, who popped up his first time. Phillies put 3 infielders into the triangle on the right side, which is interesting because as deep as Hernandez is playing, on a ground ball to him, Granderson might have a chance to beat it out.
Yeah, it better be a bullet if it's coming to him.
But it's right back to the pitcher, and Velasquez handles it, 2 down. Final game of this series tomorrow night. Noah Syndergaard makes the start for the Mets. Aaron Nola pitches for the Phillies. Our coverage begins at 6 o'clock tomorrow night right here on SNY. Noah has been nothing short of brilliant. The only thing that's bedeviled him is the condition of his middle finger, whether it be a blister or a torn fingernail. He had a little work done on those nails. He went to, I believe it was the same nail salon that R.A. Dickey used to use when he pitched here, because, you know, as a knuckleballer, Dickey was meticulous about his fingernails.
Well, I used to always rip a couple of my fingernails off too, and always would have to have the fake nails put on. It was always just awful to have to do it, but you had to. And they can make it tough enough that it can last usually a couple of starts if you're lucky.
What's the name of that product? Hard as nails?
Yeah.
Sally.
Oh, I know about
Sally Hansen? All right. Tapped to third by Cabrera, and Franco makes the play. Side retired, so Velasquez with an easy inning gets the Mets on 9 pitches. After 3, still no score. The overhead view of Columbus Circle and the traffic, it goes round and round.
It does.
Aaron Altair leads off the 4th inning and takes a curveball inside from Robert Gazelman. Altair has the hardest hit ball so far, lined out to right field in the 1st inning. Gazelman's allowed just 1 hit. A single to Freddie Galvis in the 3rd. He struck out 5 through the first 3 innings. Altair, Herrera, and Franco for the Phils in the 4th. And another hit batsman, the 2nd of the night for Robert Gazelman. He hit Saunders with a pitch in the 2nd inning.
Well, it's interesting. He's thrown a few balls in on Herrera, hit Saunders, now has hit Altair on a 2-0 count. Now, certainly not trying to hit these hitters, but pitching them in, and definitely taking account of that will be the Phils.
So a leadoff base runner for the 2nd straight inning for Philadelphia. And here's Odubel Herrera, who was called out on strikes his first time up. And well outside, ball 1, and Garneau's going to run it out to him.
And one thing you've noticed in the first 12 hitters that Gazelman's faced, he started, I believe, 4 with a breaking ball, that curveball that we didn't see a lot of as far as trying to get ahead of the hitters. He's done it 2 times. He hasn't done it a couple other times.
Gazelman hit a batter last year in his first major league outing against the Cardinals when he came out of the bullpen. Had not hit another batter until tonight. Now he's plunked a pair. He had thrown his curveball through his first 3 outings this year only 11% of the time, and we've seen a lot more of that tonight.
I'm sure there was a conversation in his throwing in between starts between he and Dan Worth, and where he probably communicated to Robert, use it more.
There goes the runner. It's lined into left center, a base hit. Altair on his way to 3rd, and the Phillies have runners at the corners and nobody out. Cabrera running to cover the bag, and Herrera hit it right behind him.
Well, as the raindrops fall, most of the time when you have a left-handed hitter up and the runner is going, you'll cover with the shortstop. But that sinker away really lends itself for Herrera to hit that ball right through that hole, and he did. A lot of talent this young man has. To be able to guide that ball through that hole, great hitting.
So the Phillies have their best scoring opportunity. 1st and 3rd and nobody out. Michael Franco up. Mets up the infield at double play depth. And a slow ground ball. Reyes will have to hurry to get it out. Does so at first as the first run of the game scores. So Altair able to score. Herrera winds up at 2nd on the ground out by Franco, and it's 1-0 Philadelphia.
Well, it was a nice read by Altair because they were not in where you run on contact. He was reading the baseball, and because it was hit so softly by Franco, he really knew that he could just come with the baseball as it went out to Reyes. Hit soft, he's got good speed, he takes off and scores easily. Doesn't seem like a huge play, but we've seen a lot of base runners stranded at 3rd who never are aggressive on that play.
Well, just indecision, right?
Yeah.
And not reading it well, but Altair took off as soon as he saw the light contact. Now it's Saunders with a runner at 2nd and 1 out, and he takes the first pitch curveball that just missed. Saunders was hit by a pitch his first time up.
You know, Gary, when guys are on 3rd base, they say to themselves, okay, watch out for the line drive, be ready if the ball's hitting the outfield to tag up. They never rarely say to themselves, boy, when something hits soft, I should score.
Herrera dancing off 2nd, catching Gazelman's attention, and Saunders asks for time.
You know, come back into the pitcher, make sure you read it. It's got to go out to the infielders first, that kind of stuff. You know, if it's a foul ball, 1st base, 3rd base has to go back on the ball. You might be able to tag on that play. Now, the real good players, real good base runners, they go through that in half a second. Good breaking ball there from Gazelman. Got a good one despite the cold and rain.
Pops the fastball up and away, and it's 2-1 to Saunders. Well, the Mets find themselves behind early in this game in a stretch where the offense has not been producing a lot. Just 10 runs scored in the last 4 games for New York.
It's interesting to hear Terry Collins today, because it's not only here in New York but everywhere in baseball. Talked about elevating the baseball. We are hitting the ball on the ground. If we don't get the ball in the air and hit ball over the fence, we're not going to score runs.
Yeah, he was asked, is there anything in the Mets team-wide approach that's changed? He said, yeah, we're not hitting home runs. When they were hitting 7 in one game in Philadelphia, there was no problem.
Warm weather in Philadelphia.
Well, they scored 9 runs that first game in Miami, no problem. 2-2 to Saunders. On the inside corner, got him looking. Boy, Gesellman has been freezing Philly hitters throughout these first 4 innings. That's 6 strikeouts, 5 of them caught looking.
I think we talked about it before, that when Bartolo Colon was here last year, he took a page out of Bartolo's book, and that using that sinker on the inside part of the plate, the left-handers, very effective tonight.
6 strikeouts, 2 shy of his career high. 2 out in the inning. Herrera still at second. And now Tommy Joseph, the batter. He grounded out to Reyes his first time up. And Joseph skies one foul. And that'll go out of play. Here's your Verizon trivia question for tonight. The Mets' first win at Shea Stadium was on this date in 1964. Whom did they face?
Well, you've got to know that answer. Not only the whom, but the team.
Dave Fried knows, or he claims to.
Well, he looks everything up. I'd know too.
Little dribbler, and that'll go foul. 0-2 to Joseph.
He's like my older kids. When I'm with them, we'll be having a conversation, and who played that part? And like 5 minutes later, they'll tell me who played the part. Like they know it. They looked it up. That doesn't count,
you know,
to me.
There's a skill in being able to look it up quickly. Like last inning when I was talking about hard as nails, Sally Hansen.
Wow.
I looked it up in 2 seconds after we went to break, and Dave Fried sat there for 3 minutes, couldn't figure out how to look it up.
Well, looking at his spelling, you probably didn't know how to spell Hansen.
Ground ball snagged by Gesellman. He's a good athlete. Got some basketball in his background. Pulled down the rebound that time and got the out. But the Phillies scratch out a run, coming home on Franco's ground out. Playing in the light rain at Citi Field. Phillies grab a 1-0 lead in the 4th. Home fourth inning, Yoenis Cespedes leads off for New York against Vince Velasquez, who's been staked to a 1-0 lead. And Cespedes takes a curveball inside. Fans are booing, thinking maybe Velasquez was retaliating, but that was a curveball.
Yes, just stayed inside. You know, last night, Zach Eflin, after getting in trouble in the first inning, pitched a good ball game. Velasquez trying to do the same.
Tip by Cespedes, 1-1. Cespedes reached on a fielder's choice, tried to score from first on Jay Bruce's double with 2 out, and was thrown out of the plate. Velasquez has struck out only 1 and walked 2, which is unusual for him. The strikeout part, 1 strikeout in 3 innings.
A little frustrated with himself too. If you've noticed, his fastball's range has been 90 to 92. He usually throws a little harder, but maybe his mechanics are off a bit.
Average fastball velocity this year has been just a shade under 94, but we haven't seen much of that early in this game. It was good to have your Mets umbrella on hand. April showers and all that. Velasquez, just 24 years old, came up through the Astros organization, traded for former Phillies closer Ken Giles after the 2015 season. Made his debut with the Phillies last year, was phenomenal early in the season before tailing off. Looking for his first win this year. And this is low. There's the 95-mile-an-hour fastball. 2-2.
You know, you mentioned that game that he struck out 16 batters. I remember that game because I said to myself, boy, what a wipeout slider he had in that game. We have not seen a lot of that in this game so far.
And he hasn't thrown many sliders this year. Cespedes drives one to deep left center field. Back in the gap goes Altair with Herrera, and Herrera takes charge and makes the catch.
Again, anything that has a little air underneath it is just going to die on the warning track. And a little miscommunication between Altair and Herrera, but the center fielder usually is the person that should make that play.
Altair, much bigger man, not the guy you want to run into. Jay Bruce has the Mets' only hit tonight. He doubled down the right field line. Cards one foul, 1-1. One-two from Velasquez, and he struck him out with a high fastball. Second strikeout of the night for Vince Velasquez, who's now retired 6 in a row. Drive around the majors presented by Cadillac. Dexter Fowler hit 2 home runs, accounting for the 2 St. Louis runs as they beat the Pirates 2-1. Same score as yesterday. The Cubs scored 4 in the bottom of the ninth, capped by Addison Russell's 3-run homer off Neftali Phillies. And the Cubs beat the Brewers. Bryce Harper got the Nats off to a fast start in Atlanta, but the Braves up 2-1. Braves finally lost a game at SunTrust Park last night as they were shut out for 7 innings by Max Scherzer. The Braves won their first 4 games in their new park, which was the longest streak for any team in their new stadium since the Braves at Turner Field started out 5-0 in 1997.
mean, who would have thunk it, right?
Well,
little different team though.
They were pretty good back then. They ran out a pretty decent rotation.
Big rotation in a big ballpark. That always seems to work. And Andrew Jones in center field.
Yeah, that too. 1-2 to Walker, who hit one to the wall in right center that Herrera caught in the second inning.
There was a 96-mile-an-hour fastball from Velasquez.
Now the 0-2 to Walker. And he misses away with a changeup, 1-2. And Neal bangs one down to first. Tommy Joseph handles the hop. And Velasquez has his second straight 1-2-3 inning. He's retired 7 in a row. After 4 at Citi Field, Phillies 1, Mets nothing.
Trailing the Phillies 1-0. And guys, last night on the broadcast, you were asking about pitch counts and innings limits and whether or not 65 pitches in 5 innings counts the same as, say, 99 pitches over the course of 5 innings. So I checked in with Mets assistant general manager John Ricco today on that, and the answer is not as simple as a yes and a no. Yeah, 5 innings counts the same any way you slice it in terms of innings count, but no longer do the Mets and no longer do most teams in Major League Baseball strictly look at innings limits. They take a number of factors into play as Rupp drives this one into the gap in left center field. He is standing up at second base with a double. But so you have innings limits or innings counts, but the Mets also take into account the amount of pitches a pitcher throws over the course of the season, how many pitches per inning a pitcher throws, how many games they pitch over the threshold. So let's say the threshold is set at 100 pitches in a game. How many times do they go over that? And then they pay attention to mechanics using the TrackMan system and use all of those things to try and figure out a best estimate into when a pitcher should be shut down in the case of Zach Wheeler. And that's why you're seeing Sandy Alderson now shying away from putting an innings cap, because it's not all about the innings anymore.
Good report there, Steve, and I think that is that you're right, that a lot of teams are taking in all of these factors that I think are very important tools. A little hard though on some of those factors and how much of a percentage or weight you give to each of those factors. It still comes back to innings and pitches. You know, what pitches are under duress, that's hard to say. It's a difficult thing that they're trying to do, but you know that all the teams are trying to get it correct.
Everybody's trying to reach a conclusion about something that they can't reach a conclusion about. Neil Walker handles the ground ball and throws out Galvis for the first out, but Rupp goes over to third. I mean, everybody's trying to do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to protect pitchers. They're trying to increase their longevity and minimize their time on the disabled list. But the fact of the matter is that nobody knows what the limit is in terms of pitches or innings or pitches thrown under duress, and whether it's different for one pitcher than it is for another.
Yeah, and I think all of these numbers at some point will really have some weight to them and be able to help teams as they move along and protect their pitchers. But you know, you're using kind of one gauge, one algorithm for many different kinds of pitchers.
Right.
That's one of the issues. You know, you're going to judge Robert Gsellman the same as you're going to judge Matt Harvey, who's been through 2 operations. I don't know.
Infield in for Velasquez. And Gsellman falls behind him 2-0. Velasquez was allowed to swing away in his first at bat and grounded into a double play. No hint of a squeeze here. And he bangs one through the hole for a base hit. And that brings in the second Phillies run. Rupp trots in to score. Velasquez drives on the run, and it's 2-0 Philadelphia.
Well, just outstanding situational hitting here by the Phillies. The double to lead it off. Galvis moved him over. A nice job by Velasquez with the infield in going the other way and finding a hole.
It's another one of those 2-seam fastballs that came back over the plate.
Down and away, he does not get enough bat on the ball to punch it through that hole.
Jacket on.
Yes, he does.
Better the jacket than the hoodie. Cesar Hernandez, the batter.
You know, Gary, don't get me wrong. I love what teams are trying to do to protect their pitchers. I think it's great. There's a fine line between when I pitched and the most they would really think about you is, are you all right to go today? That's about as far as it'll go, to how much thought and work they're putting in to protect these guys.
Little dribbler, tough play for Gsellman. He gets off the mound and into the runner. The throw, and he's safe as it got by Duda. Velasquez going to third. Gsellman threw it right into the runner, and that made it hard for Duda to handle as it sailed right by the head of Hernandez.
Terry's got to take a look at this. Is he outside of the running zone when it hits him? Oh, it didn't. It went right into Duda, and Duda like shoved it into his shoulder.
It's a situation where you're better off throwing it into the back of the runner, and it looked like Duda's wrist got wrenched backwards, and Ray Ramirez, the athletic trainer, is going to come out and see if he's okay.
See, my interpretation is I think that Hernandez is right where he should be, and his throw was right into the glove of Duda. Duda and the glove and the ball got on the shoulder at the same time of Hernandez, so he'll be safe at first base. See that mud on that ball? Probably had a little bit to do with the errant throw by Gsellman.
Well, they're going to charge an error to Gsellman all the way, no base hit. Velasquez winds up at third, and now the Phillies again have first and third and 1 out. So the Mets, who committed 3 errors last night, commit their first error in this game. And now Aaron Altair, who has lined to right and been hit by a pitch. He scored the first Phillies run in the 4th. Phillies will run home here in the 5th and lead 2-0. Hernandez, who has a couple of stolen bases already this year, gets some attention from Gsellman, who's at 70 pitches now with 1 out in the 5th. It's always been one of the most contentious things about that path from home to first for a runner on that ball hit along the first baseline. You got that 40-foot long, 45-foot long, 3-foot wide lane that you're supposed to run in that nobody runs in. Because even if you run in the lane the entire way down, the lane is in foul territory, the base is in fair territory. So eventually you have to get to fair territory.
The biggest issue is that after you swing the bat, you are in fair territory when you release the bat. So you're working your way to get to that fair foul territory the entire 90 feet.
And I've always heard Tom Seaver say the best play there is to just hit the runner in the back. He's automatically going to be out because he's automatically going to be running out of that lane.
And it is the right play. Hard to do, though, because you're taught to make the play.
There is a solution. And the solution is for baseball to go to the second first base.
That's right.
Which you know, they use in Little League and some other lower leagues, so that there's one base for the first baseman to stand on and a second base in foul territory for the runner to run through. So it lessens the possibility of collision and also makes that play tenable for the base runner.
You know what you could also do is that base that is in foul territory, you could somehow rig it with a little more pop or audio so that when the runner's foot hits it, it would give a little more indication to the first base umpire between the catch and the tagging of the base of the runners. Make it a little easier for the first base umpire.
3-2 to Altair. You figure Hernandez has to be running here to try and stay to the double play. And so Gesellman will give him another pop. Well, he scratched out a run in the fourth inning that came in on a ground out. Velasquez drove in the run here. Now trying to take advantage of the error. First and third and one out. Hernandez runs and it's pulled foul.
You know,
fifth inning brought to you by your local Ford dealers. The Ford Spring Sales Drop event is on. For big savings, go to buyfordnow.com.
No, just going to say that the Mets, of course, are the more powerful team, but you're watching the Phillies trying to make good with what they've got. Getting runners over, getting runners in, running on 3-2, hit and run, whatever it takes to play a little bit of small ball.
Hernandez runs again. Altair fouls it away again. Slider there from Gesellman. And Altair keeps the at bat alive. I don't think we have a great gauge on Velasquez's speed at third base and how deep a fly ball it would take to get him in.
You know, he looks very runner-ish. I know that's not a word we use in baseball, but he looks like he's a good athlete and he can run a little bit. So.
Eighth pitch to Altair. Hernandez runs. Strike three called. Throw to second. Not in time. Altair is called out on strikes, I believe. Yeah, now he vacates. So it's a stolen base for Hernandez. A strikeout of Altair for the second out.
Well, this is about the fifth time we've seen a ball right down the middle taken 3-2 by a hitter. And honestly, there could have been an argument there that you saw the body of Altair as he took that pitch kind of drifted across the plate and might have interfered a little with d'Arnaud's throw.
Well, that's what Travis is trying to argue with Chad Whitson, the home plate umpire, that Altair was in his way as he made this throw.
See that step with the left
his
foot?
hand hit the bat of Altair as he made the throw. And now the Mets are intentionally walking Odubel Herrera. His hand definitely hit the bat of Altair. Now that technically doesn't make it interference, but it certainly hurt. So the Mets give the no pitch intentional pass to Herrera to load the bases with two down and bring up Maikel Franco. Here's d'Arnaud on that throw.
So he's trying to follow through to make the throw, and he threw a accurate throw, but his follow through takes him right off the end of Altair's bat. When you take that pitch as a hitter, you've got to kind of give some room to the catcher. You saw d'Arnaud popped up, said he was in the way. You could call that interference. Home plate umpire Whitson, a young umpire, said no.
You know, I'm not sure about the ruling there, right? Because if the body of the player is in your way, clearly it's interference. But if the bat happens to inadvertently be in the way, is that interference?
I don't know that.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
So now the base is loaded with two out. Here's Franco, who's 0 for 2, drove in a run with a ground out. Big spot for Gesellman, already down 2-0. And he starts him off with a slider for ball one.
I look at it this way, Gary, is that he didn't swing at that pitch. So it's not like he swung the bat and it drifted over the middle of the plate. He didn't swing. So he
you're
drifted.
saying he's responsible for the position of the bat.
He drifted without a swing.
On the outside corner, a strike, 1-1. Franco trying to snap an 0 for 19 stretch. He's already hit one grand slam against the Mets this year. off Hansel Robles in Philadelphia. Zellman has a big out to get right now. Grounded down to Reyes. He backs off, bobbles the ball, still has time, and throws out Franco to end the inning. A little nervous moment there for the Mets and Reyes. Darno hoping his hand is okay. 1 run for the Phillies in that 5th. They lead 2-0 halfway through. Hand after it hit the bat of Aaron Altair. Whoa. That cut on the back. I'm not sure if that was in that moment or whether that was already there, but nonetheless. So Darno got shaken up in that inning. So did Lucas Duda, who had his wrist turned back on the play at first base where Cesar Hernandez ran into him, and Duda's coming out of the game. Wilmer Flores is going to bat for him, leading off in the bottom of the 5th. Wilmer takes a strike. Duda in the dugout between innings, telling Terry Collins that he needs to come out. And Ray Ramirez follows him down the tunnel, and he'll get treatment. We'll get a report as soon as we can. But it looked as though his wrist got turned back on that play at first base on the high throw by Gesellman. Meanwhile, it looks like Darno is going to be able to stay in, getting ready to hit. Flores carves one foul, and it's 1-2.
You know, it's a dangerous play for a first baseman. We've seen a lot of guys get injured at first base when their hands have been kind of ripped back. Delgado had it happen to him when he was in Toronto.
Of course, the worst was the Cliff Floyd play with Todd Hundley years ago, where he broke so many bones in his arm. Breaking ball hit on the ground to shortstop. And Galvis throws out Flores one away. So Velasquez is now settled in to retire 8 in a row. Here's your 4th, 5th inning recap. Velasquez now working with a 2-0 lead, and he's driven in one of the 2 Philly runs. He's allowed just 1 hit. Robert Gesellman has pitched better, but he finds himself on the short end, pitching for a Mets team right now that is not scoring many runs. 10 runs in the previous 4 games, none so far tonight. There's Reyes, who walked his first time, and he slaps one right at Galvis. 2 plays for the shortstop and 2 quick outs for Velasquez in the home 5th. That's 9 straight retired by the Phillies right-hander. And now Darno will bat. Travis into a fielder's choice his first time up.
Half of the outs from Velasquez have come on the ground. So he's the one generating the ground balls so far.
7 ground ball outs of his first 14. He's only struck out 2, which is very much against type for Velasquez, who had struck out 17 batters in 9 innings through his first 2 starts. And D'Arnaud takes one the other way, and Hernandez bobbles it, but has time to make the play. 3 ground ball outs for Velasquez, and he's now retired 10 in a row. We played 5 at Citi Field. Phillies 2, Mets nothing. It's quite a moment, isn't it?
It really is.
Wilmer Flores stays in to play first base. The word on Lucas Duda as he suffered a hyperextended left elbow on that collision at first base with Cesar Hernandez. And now Michael Saunders leads off in the 6th and lines a base hit into right field. Let's go back to that play at first base where Duda got hurt.
Well, the ball, glove, and the shoulder of Hernandez all met at the same time.
So it wasn't the wrist, it was the elbow.
And you can see his reaction, immediate.
Lucas has had so many physical issues to deal with. The fracture in his back last year. He had to get a couple of cortisone shots in his hip this spring. That's pulled down to third, should be 2. Reyes to Walker, low throw, but Neal still able to turn it over. 5-4-3 double play. And Walker with a nice save there on the low throw by Reyes.
A couple of nervous plays here the last couple innings by Reyes. Kind of takes a little off this throw so it sinks, but Walker makes a nice play. No rush in Walker's game. He has the ability to separate the plays, make the catch first, and then proceed with the double play. He knew who the runner was.
Second ground ball double play for Gazelman tonight. So quickly 2 out and nobody on. And now Cameron Rupp, who doubled and scored the second Philadelphia run. And after each of the first 2 batters hit the first pitch, Rupp takes a strike.
automatic.
Is it really automatic, though?
I mean, certainly not, because there have been pitchers who've gotten, you know, 3 up and 3 down on 3 pitches.
Good curveball by Gesellman, and it's 0-2. I guess it depends who the hitter is.
Did you see what Drew Storen did last night? Pitched a clean inning, 9 pitches, 9 strikes, 3 strikeouts.
Really?
Yeah, the immaculate inning.
Immaculate inning. Last guy I remember to do that for the Mets, I think, was David Cohn. Cabrera with the spinorama, throws out Rump. Side retired on 5 pitches. Middle of the 6th, still 2-0 Phillies. Only 2 hits for the Mets tonight. Mets have now gone 14 straight innings without a run. Robert Gesellman will stay in and bat for himself, leading off in the bottom of the 6th.
Yeah, limited bench for the Mets. 87 pitches for Gesellman. He's in a nice spot, and the bullpen's been overworked. Those 3 factors keep Gesellman in the game.
And he slaps one through the hole for a base hit. Robert Gesellman's 2nd major league hit. The first one he has accomplished swinging the bat, and he likes every bit of that. Had a bunt hit last year when he wasn't allowed to swing the bat. Now he's got one swinging. And he wants to save that baseball, I would think, even though it's not his first.
Well, a little quid pro quo for Gesellman here. Velasquez drove in one through that hole, and Gesellman counters with a base hit to start the inning off.
So he gets the hoodie. Velasquez went with the jacket. Curtis Granderson tying run at the plate has popped up and grounded out. 0 for 2. Hitless in his last 9 at bats. And Curtis breaks his back, grounds one to Joseph, out at first, tag play at second, and Gesellman does not slide, and it's tagged out by Galvis for the double play. And just like that, Gesellman is erased, and I don't know why he didn't slide.
Well, you have to know right here that the ball where it is, and he was Cadillacing too. Just can't do that. If you're going to be on and you're losing the game 2-0, it's your game, buddy. You got to play a little baseball, and baseball includes running the bases. I understand runners sometimes say they don't know what's happening. It doesn't matter, right? The worst thing that's happening is he's coming second back to first for a double play. So you still want to get down there.
Either way, sliding would be the way to go.
Yeah.
So quickly 2 out and nobody on. And now it's Dribble Cabrera, who has walked and grounded out 0 for 1. Collins checking with Travis d'Arnaud. I don't know whether there's still some question about his thumb. Meanwhile, Cabrera bangs one into center field for a base hit. So the Mets, who had just one hit over the first 5 innings, have 2 hits here in the 6th. And now they'll get Cespedes to the plate as the tying run.
Well, Cabrera's always been, so far in this April, been very aggressive early in the count. It's paid off for him.
So now Cespedes, who reached on a fielder's choice, was thrown out of the plate, trying to score on a double in the 1st inning, then hit one to the warning track in left center in the 4th. So he's 0 for 2. Takes a curveball for a strike, 0-1. Haven't seen much of that curveball from Velasquez tonight. And another one off the plate, 1-1. Cespedes 2 for 8 with a home run against Velasquez. That's been 11 straight games where they hit at least 1 home run. They've gone 3 straight games now without one. And Cespedes lays off the breaking ball in the dirt, and he stopped it in time. And Iasoni with the call, 2-1.
Breaking ball in the dirt. It's interesting that Velasquez is trying to establish that breaking ball here in the 6th inning. But the way the Mets offense is going, Gary, you almost feel like this is the time. Cespedes has got to go deep to get him back in the game.
Or at least draw a walk and get Bruce to the plate and let him take care of it. Bruce has the only extra base hit for the Mets tonight. 2-1 to Cespedes. And time asked for. Cabrera at first with 2 down. And Cespedes holds the swing on a fastball up high, and now it's 3-1. So what do you do if you're Velasquez in this spot? Are you challenging Cespedes with Bruce standing on deck?
I would challenge him, but I would challenge him down and away. That's where my concentration would be. Is that if he's going to beat me, he's going to have to take me to right center or right field, not pull me.
And he threw the fastball upstairs for ball 4, and so the Mets now have the tying runs on base with Jay Bruce coming up. 3rd walk given up by Velasquez. And now Bruce, who has doubled and struck out tonight, 1 for 2.
You know, it's interesting, a rep going out to Velasquez. I think a lot of times what catchers will do in this situation is they just want to assure the pitcher, you got a good game going on, buddy. That walk is not going to hurt you. So let's just concentrate on this batter. He struck him out the last time. Remember, the one pitch we got to stay away from, he hooked that fastball down and in, down the right field line. Let's stay away from there. Slow stuff, fastballs away. That's what you're trying to concentrate on.
It's also the first time tonight the Mets have had a runner at second base. So they have to make sure they're on the same page as far as the signs are concerned as well. Cabrera and Cespedes, the base runners, with 2 out. Full shift against Bruce, and he cracks one to deep right field. Back to the wall goes Saunders. It's out of here! Jay Bruce with a 3-run homer, and the Mets turn the game around. It's 3-2 New York. Fifth of the year for Jay Bruce, and the Mets have their first lead of the night.
Well, a 2-out hit by Cabrera. Cespedes not trying to do too much and taking the walk, keeping the line moving. And Bruce jumping all over this pitch from Velasquez that was supposed to be away and down, and it was middle. So the discussion between Rupp and Velasquez yields a 3-run home run.
An inning in which Terry Collins allowed his pitcher Robert Gsellman to lead off, even though the Mets trailed 2-0. And it works out perfectly. Gsellman got the leadoff hit. Cabrera kept the line moving. Cespedes with the walk, and then Bruce unloads the 3-run homer to put the Mets in front. That Mets home run means $2,000, enough for No Kid Hungry to provide 20,000 meals, courtesy of Citi. Walker lines one into right field, and that's down for a base hit. So after the Mets had just one hit over the first 5 innings against Velasquez, they have 4 hits here in the 6th. Phillies bullpen is still dead quiet.
Well, here comes Bob McClure. Hasn't had to come out to the mound in the first 5+ innings.
So all of a sudden it's becoming a mystery for Vince Velasquez, who lost his first 2 starts and got hit hard. He held the Mets off the board for the first 5, but got himself in trouble here in the 6th, and Bruce cashed it in.
When the Mets do what they do, is hit the ball out of the ballpark, it just changes your whole entire outlook on them. You're always asked the 3rd time through the lineup, why is it difficult for pitchers? The last at-bat Walker took, remember, he grounded out to the first baseman, 3 unassisted on a changeup. Got the same exact pitch, and he hit it for a single.
The G pitch cast on the home run. Changeup right in the middle of the plate.
Boy. Not a lot of movement, and not a lot of differential between his fastball and the changeup.
Now Wilmer Flores up for the 2nd time. Grounded out in the last inning, and he pops one up near the mound. Who wants it? Franco comes in to help, and he drops the ball, and everybody's safe. Turnabout fair play. Another pop-up botched by a 3rd baseman. Velasquez was the only man there. Franco was calling him off, but Velasquez didn't get out of the way, and Franco dropped it.
Maybe it's because I'm sitting up here, but occasionally this game is unrecognizable.
They're going to call the error on Franco. They could just as well have called it on Velasquez.
It's not like there's 55,000 people here. Certainly can hear your 3rd baseman yelling to get out of the way.
The inning continues, and it's Reyes who has a chance to cash it in. Karma. And Jose takes a strike. Reyes, the 8th man up in the inning. He's walked and grounded out tonight. Walker at 2nd, Flores at 1st with 2 down. And the breaking ball hit toward the hole, but a run down by Hernandez, and he throws out Reyes to end the inning. But Jay Bruce turns this game around for New York. Bruce with his 5th home run of the year, a 3-run shot to put the Mets up 3-2 after 6. Mets have lost a second player this game because of injury. Rene Rivera replaces Travis d'Arnaud, who got hurt in the 5th inning.
Throwing down a second, his follow through took him right into the bat. He hit the back of his hand on Aaron Altaire's bat. They did not call interference on the play, but it left a gash on the hand of d'Arnaud.
Played a couple of innings after that, but Terry checked with him in the dugout last inning, and now he's out of the game, and Rivera is in. Freddie Galvis leads off against Robert Gsellman, who's pitching with the lead for the first time as we start the 7th. Mets will keep the bullpen active with Gsellman at 88 pitches for the night. So now you got Gsellman, who's worked through 6 innings with d'Arnaud, now having to adjust to a new catcher.
You know, but you're adjusting to a guy who is just defensively one of the best you'll see, so it shouldn't be too much of an adjustment.
Grounded down to first, fair ball. Flores handles it, and Galvis retired, 1 away.
Really, for Gsellman, this is where you earn your pitching street cred. This is where you earn it. Your team is just giving you the lead. You were left in the game because the bullpen's kind of sapped, and here's your chance to put up a big fat 0 and keep the lead.
Rock Stassi will be the pinch hitter, batting for Velasquez. A disappointing finish to Velasquez's night after 5 scoreless innings, giving up the 3-run homer to Bruce. And Stassi takes a strike. Stassi appeared as a pinch hitter last night and struck out against Josh Smoker. Trey Blevins up in the bullpen in case Gsellman needs help. And the curveball misses, and Stassi stopped the swing, 1-1. Gsellman looking for his first win of the year. Trying to battle his way through the 7th. And the changeup misses down, 2-1. Camptown races?
I guess for Lucas.
He might be watching in the clubhouse and thinking, what the heck? You know, he gets serenaded with that all the time on the road.
Not only him thinking that.
2-2 from Gsellman, and Stassi pops one into center field, and Granderson right there waiting. 2 out. So Gsellman has retired the first 2 in the top of the 7th, and now to the top of the batting order in Cesar Hernandez. It was Hernandez who hit the weak grounder up the first baseline. Gsellman fielded it and then threw it into the runner. Due to reaching into the runner, had his elbow hyperextended and had to come out of the game. And then Hernandez stole second, and that's when d'Arnaud got hurt.
That's right.
So Hernandez has been like the Flying Dutchman tonight. 0-2.
Gsellman, what you're thinking here, one more pitch, one more big pitch, get through this inning.
Working quickly, little looper, shallow left, and comes Cespedes to make the basket catch. Side retired. Robert Gsellman with a 1-2-3 top of the 7th after the Mets gave him the lead. 7 strong innings for Gsellman. Stretch time at Citi Field. 3-2 New York. Mets play the Nationals at 7:10. All fans in attendance will receive a Jose Reyes t-shirt courtesy of H.L. Gross and Brothers Jeweler. For tickets, visit Mets.com/free shirt Fridays. Well, Robert Gsellman has his helmet on in the on-deck circle. Luis Garcia will pitch in the bottom of the 7th for Philadelphia. Rene Rivera will lead it off. Rivera just came into the game behind the plate and takes a breaking ball for a strike.
Garcia very impressive last night, inning of work. As Gsellman takes a hike, right?
Yeah. Michael Conforto comes on deck to replace him. That's interesting. I kind of thought that in this situation, that's poked into right field, a base hit for Rivera to lead off the inning. So Rene Rivera up for the first time in the game, takes one the other way, and the Mets have the leadoff man on in the 7th. And now maybe Gsellman will come back out to hit.
Well, Rivera at its best gets a lot of base hits to the right side. Another one there.
And so Gsellman, who has hiked in and out of the dugout over the last couple of moments, back out there to bunt. And a base hit his last time up to lead off in the 6th inning. It's completely unlikely that Gsellman is staying in this game to pitch. He's thrown 98 pitches in 7 innings.
You know, Gary, it's the right call, though, because with a skinny bench and only a skinny 1-run lead, you want to make sure that you don't have to use extra players. The bunt is the play here.
And he shows bunt all the way. And lays off, takes a strike. I was thinking that if you did want to use a position player to bat here, you only have 2 guys left on the bench, that you would want to use Lagares, since you would probably want to leave him in for defense anyway, with a 1-run lead late. So now Lagares and Conforto both still available in the dugout. Gsellman. Well, People's United Bank brings you tonight's starters. Vince Velasquez held the Mets scoreless for the first 5. Jay Bruce ruined that. Gsellman with 7 strong innings, matching the longest outing of his career. And now batting, trying to move Rene Rivera to second base. And he stabs at it, fouls it off. 1-2. Curtis Granderson standing on deck.
Just always think when I got in these situations and you had to bunt with 2 strikes, which you might be doing here, if you're going to make an error, bunt it to the pitcher. Make him make the decision or the throw, not the infielders.
You have to keep the bunt on here. And he bunts and misses for strike 3. So Gsellman unable to advance the runner, and that's the first out of the inning. So now it's Granderson. Curtis is 0 for 3, grounded into a double play his last time up. Now hitless in his last 10 at bats. The Phillies 2 runs and 5 hits. The Mets 3 runs and 6 hits. One big swing by Jay Bruce, turning this game around in the 6th. Granderson takes ball 1. Luis Garcia working for the 2nd straight night. Worked a scoreless 9th inning last night. And wound up as the winning pitcher. And now he's behind Granderson 2-0. As Asdrubal Cabrera waiting to hit next. Phillies bullpen was spectacular last night. Mets had been pounding it into submission last year and then that first series in Philadelphia. But last night, 5 innings, no runs, 1 hit from the Philadelphia pen. Granderson lifts one to center field. And Herrera waits for it. 2 out. Back to first Rivera.
You know, we've talked many times of how inadequate really the Phillies bullpen was against Mets hitters last season, but their ERA was over 5 for the entire year, so they had a tough go of it. But they've pitched much better in the recent past, in Washington and here last night.
So now Cabrera, who had a 2-out single in the last inning, Cespedes then walked, and then Bruce unloaded a 3-run homer. Fastball strike. Last year the Mets had 218 home runs, a new club record. Second in the league in home runs at this point of the season.
Eric Thames and the Brewers.
Former KBO superstar.
It'd be different if he was just hitting home runs. I mean, he's doing it all. Extra base hits.
Didn't hit a home run last night, but he had 3 more hits.
Average on base percentage. His OPS is like 1.5 so far.
That might not be sustainable. Just saying. Two and one to Cabrera as Rupp knocks that one down.
You know, just as a little aside here, I think this is where teams fall asleep. You know, Tommy Joseph, former catcher, playing first base, he doesn't have a lot of range, but they have him holding on Rivera, who's not going to be running. So have him play behind him. I know you don't want anything to go down the line, but it'll give him a little more lateral movement.
It's always been a pet peeve of mine. I just don't understand it. I mean, if Rene Rivera wants to run, you let him run.
Yeah.
Give him a head start. Give him a free bus pass. Two and two to Cabrera. Popped it up on the right side. Hernandez waiting for it. Side retired. Mets get a leadoff hit, but leave him stranded. We go to the 8th at Citi Field. Mets 3, Phillies 2. Jay Bruce's 3-run homer in the 6th has the Mets in front 3-2, and lo and behold, let's first answer our Verizon trivia question. Whom did the Mets face when they won their first game at Shea Stadium on this date in 1964? And it was the Pirates. Al Jackson, a complete game 6-hitter. Speaking of complete games,
yes.
Well, sort of. Robert Gazelman takes them out for the 8th inning, the first Mets starter to do so this season.
And he's got a huge out here. He's got to get the leadoff hitter, right-handed hitter, Altair, out first.
Starts the inning at 98 pitches. Altair floats one down the line. That's a fair ball, and it goes up into the seats for a ground rule double. So Altair on the first pitch thrown by Gazelman, the first pitch thrown by a Mets starting pitcher in the 8th inning this year, a leadoff double.
Well, breaks his bat, but the pitch is up. So Altair is able to elevate it and keep it fair down the left field line.
And that's the last pitch Gazelman will throw. Jerry Blevins was up in the bullpen. I think Altair was going to be his last batter either way, with Blevins getting ready to face the left-hand hitting Herrera. Now Gazelman will exit with the tying run at second base. A job well done by Gazelman tonight. but his chance for a win in jeopardy here as Blevins makes his entrance into the game. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon. Mets holding on to a 3-2 lead in the 8th. We'll be right back to Citi Field. Jerry Blevins, who for the first time all year allowed an inherited runner to score last night, comes in with the tying run at second base.
Oh, Jerry's been asked to lift some heavier weighted conditions here early in April.
Robert Gsellman out after 7 innings plus, so Odubel Herrera the batter. Tying run at second and nobody out, and Blevins gives a look at Altair to chase him back. Herrera 0 for 8 in his career against Blevins. Tonight 1 for 2 on an intentional walk. Altair leading off the inning with a soft double down the left field line against Gsellman, and bringing the Mets bullpen into play. Corners in against Herrera, who has good enough speed to lay down a bunt, and Blevins starts him off with a fastball outside.
You know, in the 5th inning, Cameron Rupp led off with a double to left center, and Freddie Galvis got him over with some situational hitting. Herrera is one of their best players, so he's going to be trying to drive in the run, but the Phillies have done a lot of that small ball tonight.
Michael Franco is the on-deck batter. And it doesn't look as though the Mets have a right-hander up behind Blevins. Fastball off the plate. Now he's behind on Herrera, 2-0. If you can get Herrera out, then you can kind of pitch carefully to Franco with the left-hand hitting Saunders behind him. But the key is getting Herrera, and Blevins quickly behind him, 2-0. Hansel Robles quickly to work in the Mets bullpen. Two and one.
Interesting there. Blevins is trying to counter Herrera, who's got a little bit of a hole inside by throwing that fastball inside, but it's not a strength for Jerry. He's mostly fastball away to lefties and breaking ball.
Herrera, who takes a lot of time settling back in between pitches. Last night Addison Reed quick pitched him. Herrera was trying to get time. It wasn't granted, and a strike was called on him. Working with Rene Rivera, who took over for the injured Travis d'Arnaud. The word on Travis is a right wrist contusion that he suffered when his hand hit the bat of Aaron Altair back in the 5th inning. Trying to throw to second base. 2-1, and the curveball bends in for a strike. He had Herrera bailing out.
Well, that was an outstanding curveball from Blevins. Starts behind, almost at the numbers of Herrera, and then takes that right turn.
So now Jerry's worked his way back to 2-2.
Now, if you can, you want to start this curveball right down the middle and bend it off the plate if he chooses that pitch.
And the curveball fouled off.
Too good of a pitch there. Ball in the middle of the plate. And also, when you're pitching, you want to judge swings, Gary. That's a pretty good swing Herrera put on that curveball. So you might want to counter a fastball, and in is the pitch, not away to Herrera.
So Edebry Ramos up in the Phillies bullpen.
Saw the fastball away from Gazelman earlier on the hit and run. Herrera was able to steer it into the hole.
Rivera sets up away, and the fastball outside. Now a full count to Herrera.
This might be one of the rare times to see the 3-2 curveball from Blevins.
Altair the tying run at second with nobody out. Three-two coming. Curveball grounded to the right side. So Herrera advances the runner. Walker throws out Herrera. Altair goes to third with one out.
Almost mirroring that 5th inning for the Phillies. Nice at bat by Herrera. Tough break the ball down and put the bat on the ball.
So now it's Franco, and we'll see how the Mets choose to play this. You've got the right-hander Robles up in the bullpen. If you were to walk Franco, it would be putting the go-ahead run on base, which many managers are loath to do. So it looks like the Mets are going to pull their infield in and pitch to Franco with the lefty Blevins. Franco's 0 for 3 tonight, 0 for his last 20. And Blevins misses with a fastball, ball one.
This is one of those instances where I think having a veteran out there, Terry Collins is going to allow him to try to pitch around the strike zone. Maybe Franco will chase and get himself out.
Franco was 0 for 1 in his career against Blevins. Blevins had great numbers against righties last year. And being allowed to face a tough one here, albeit one who's slumping. And Franco fouls it back. Fastball away, 1-1.
That was a good swing by Franco.
Sniffing the bat. A little heat.
Yeah, well, when you foul a ball back like that, it almost smells like kindling wood when you're trying to start a fire.
Altair at third and one out. Infield in all the way around. And the curveball bends in for a strike, 1-2. Jerry dials back the curve and gets ahead.
Good pitch. Starts out off the plate, bends down the middle. Now you certainly wouldn't want to throw that pitch again. You get a back foot it, the curveball, and fastball up out of the strike zone is a good pitch here for Jerry.
A spot where he could really use a strikeout. 1-2 to Franco. And the curveball, that's the back foot Ronnie was talking about.
That's all right. That's a good pitch. Franco wasn't biting. Good hitting by Franco.
I mean, the changeup is his third best pitch. You wouldn't want him to throw that here.
No, because you wouldn't want to be hurt on your third best pitch in this key situation. Again, he wants to hit the fastball, so tease him with it, but up out of the strike zone. Back to the curve.
2-2. Half swing. He went around, strike three. A big strikeout for Jerry Blevins. 2 men down.
Well, just exceptional pitching by Blevins. Doesn't get any better than this, folks. With a fastball and curveball as his weapons, he got ahead with that curveball to make it 1-2, and then threw 2 out of the strike zone, hoping that Franco would chase at least 1. He did.
So Blevins left in to face the right-hand batter, gets Franco, who's now 0 for his last 21. And now it's the left-hand hitting Michael Saunders, who's 1 for 2 and has been hit by a pitch tonight. Tying run at 3rd and 2 out after the Altair leadoff double.
Saunders is a very aggressive hitter. You got to be careful with the first pitch. Can't just lay it in there.
He's done well against Blevins, 2 for 6 with a home run. Got in on the fists, popped up. Rivera coming back, but he runs out of room. Well, the Phillies have been extraordinary this year with runners in scoring position and 2 out. Blevins doing some heavy lifting here in the 8th after the leadoff double by Altair. He was brought in. Rarick grounded out to advance Altair to 3rd, a strikeout of Franco, and now trying to get through it against Saunders.
See that defense? It's allowed that entire shortstop hole to be wide open.
Rivera sets up inside, and the fastball in a little tight. That's 2 in a row he's come inside with. It's 1-1.
Good pitch by Blevins. Could have got the call from the young umpire. Did not.
Chad Whitson calling the balls and strikes tonight. Tommy Joseph would be next for the Phillies. Saunders 3 for 7 in this series. And he bloops one to shallow left. In comes Cespedes on the run, sliding. He can't make the catch, and the Phillies have tied the game. A soft single to left from Michael Saunders brings in Altair with the tying run, and it's 3-3.
Well, nice try by Cespedes. Nothing he could do. That ball was placed perfectly by Saunders, who got sawed off by Blevins and dropped it in front of him. Again, that simple play of Herrera getting Altair to 3rd, he might not score on that. Cespedes would have played that on 1 hop.
So for the 2nd straight night, Blevins, despite some strong work here in the 8th, allows an inherited runner to score, and he will take his exit now with the Phillies having tied it, and takes away Robert Gazelman's chance for a win. And now Hansel Robles will come in to try and get Tommy Joseph to get the final out of the top of the 8th. 3-3 game. We'll be right back to Citi Field. It's the Mets' 15th game of the year, and Hansel Robles is making his 10th appearance.
Well, between Hansel Robles and Fernando Salas, it seems like they're in every game.
Jerry Blevins too. So Robles comes on here with Saunders, the go-ahead run at first, and 2 out to face Tommy Joseph, who's 0 for 3 tonight. And Joseph, first pitch swinging, pops one foul. Reyes hoping for room at the railing and doesn't quite have long enough arms. Joseph's hit the ball on the ground 3 times tonight. Last one was a shot to Reyes that turned into a 5-4-3 double play. He's 0 for 3 in his career against Robles. Hansel worked 2/3 of an inning last night. Gave up a walk and a hit batsman. And that one's off the home plate umpire's mask. Chad Whitson able to smile about it. It's always good when they smile. See the shot Del Scott took last week?
Boy.
Fortunately, he was okay. Had to come out of the game after taking one off the chin of the mask.
He's one of the most senior of umpires now.
Right behind Joe West. 0-2 to Joseph. A little bit high. 1-2. Mets were down 2-0 in this game. Jay Bruce hit a 3-run homer in the 6th to put him in front. Michael Saunders, 2-out hit here in the 8th, has tied the game. And now Robles trying to put this inning to bed. 1-2. Saunders runs, swung and missed, strike 3. Joseph strikes out to end the inning. But the Phillies tie the game on Saunders' soft single to left. And we go to the bottom of the 8th at Citi Field. Mets and Phillies tied at 3. Take them with you wherever you go. You can now watch SNY Mets games on any device with live streaming presented by Verizon on SNY.TV and the NBC Sports app, your home for live streaming coverage of every SNY Mets game. Every Mets game is turning into an NBA game. It's always tight late. The last 5 games the Mets have played have been decided in the winner's final turn at bat. And looks like we're coming down to that again tonight with Edebry Ramos on to pitch the bottom of the 8th for the Phillies.
Well, the Philadelphia Philly bullpen last 18 2/3 only given up 5 earned runs. No runs given up by Ramos In last night's ball game, a hit, but struck out 3.
Cespedes, Bruce, and Walker 3, 4, and 5 in the order in the bottom of the 8th after the Phillies tied it in the top of the inning. Cespedes 0 for 2 and a walk, and the breaking ball sits high for ball 1. Cespedes walked in front of Bruce's 3-run homer in the 6th against Vince Velasquez. No overshift here by the Phillies. They keep the second baseman on the right side of the diamond, meaning you would think that they're going to be pitching Cespedes away.
Strange, because one of the best pitches for Ramos is that good hard slider, which is a pitch you would be more apt to pull if you're Cespedes.
2-0 and well outside. 3-0. Cespedes 0 for 1 against Ramos. Jay Bruce on deck has yet to face this right-hander. Nobody up in the bullpen for the Phillies. 3-0 up the middle, base hit. So Cespedes turned loose on 3-0, and he's aboard with a leadoff single.
That's a place where the overshifting or not overshifting by the Phillies cost them.
If they had 3 infielders on the left side, that would have been right at the second base.
That's right. Interesting pitch that he swung at. That's a pitch usually would let travel because it was down, but Cespedes put a good swing on it.
Now Jay Bruce, and he takes a fastball too high for ball 1. Bruce doubled in the first inning. Cespedes tried to score but was thrown out of the plate, and then Bruce let everybody trot around the bases when he launched a 3-run homer in the 6th, his 5th of the year.
And Jay cracks another one deep right field. Back goes Saunders near the wall. It's out of here! Jay Bruce with his 2nd home run of the night. Bruce gives the Mets the lead with a 2-run homer. 5-3 New York.
Well, Jay had 2-1 game against the Phillies last week. He's hit 2 tonight and driven in all 5 Met runs, and for the 2nd time tonight he puts the Mets in front.
Well, a pair of twin home runs, almost identical by Bruce. Line shot over the right field wall with something on it.
Jay Bruce has now hit 12 home runs as a Met, and 6 of the 12 have come against the Phillies.
6 of 12 against the Phillies. And is that Bruce's first curt call here in the Big Apple?
I guess he can play here after all. Here's Neil Walker, and he takes a slider for a strike, and it's 1-2. Well, the Mets wasting no time against Edebry Ramos. Cespedes swinging at a 3-0 pitch, banging up the middle, and Bruce on the 2nd pitch he sees, launching a line drive home run. His 6th of the year and his 2nd of the night. 2-2 now to Walker. And now Addison Reed is up in the Mets bullpen, getting ready for the save opportunity in the 9th.
Well, Ramos got behind both hitters. There's the curtain call. Got behind both hitters. 3-0 base hit to Cespedes and a 1-0 home run to Bruce.
Walker hits one out to center field. Herrera steadies, and that's the first out of the inning. He dropped the ball, but they say it was on the transfer, and Walker had already vacated the base paths anyway.
Well, Herrera doesn't lack confidence, I'll tell you that, but he's very loose out there in the field. And that was a catch. It's going to happen one day when it's not.
Here's Flores up for the 3rd time. Wilmer took over for Duda, who suffered a hyperextended left elbow in a collision with Cesar Hernandez at first base. That's in their 2nd home run of the night. Bruce responsible for both. Flores flies one to shallow right. And Saunders under it. 2 out. 3 extra base hits for Bruce tonight, a double and 2 home runs.
What a difference 6 months makes, right? I mean, I don't know if we saw Jay smile in a month and a half when he came over for a couple of months. And for the right reasons, you know, he got off to such a slow start, but boy, he's had that grin in April.
He did finish well the last week last season, but certainly was more bad than good in the Mets uniform. But he's always been a pretty streaky player, and he had his great streak with the Reds last year in the first half of the season, and he's starting to head down that path early this season as well. Reyes fouls it off, and it's 0-2. Bruce now with 6 home runs and 14 runs batted in. The 6 homers tying Cespedes for the team lead. And there's Addison Reed getting ready for the save chance, which, if he gets it, there's strike 3 called, would be 6 straight games that the Mets play a game where the winning team takes the lead in their final turn at bat. Jay Bruce puts the Mets in front for the 2nd time. A line drive, 2-1 homer. 2 homers, 5 RBIs for Bruce. A big night for Jay, and a 5-3 Met lead going to the 9th. Always good to have puppy training on the postgame show. Addison Reed on to try and get the save as the Mets try and snap a 4-game losing streak.
And just interesting here, night before Familia comes back, could be Reed's last opportunity for a save for a while.
Pitched a 1-2-3 9th last night with the Mets in a tie game. Now he has a 2-run lead to protect after Jay Bruce's 2nd home run of the night. Cameron Rupp is 1 for 3, doubled and scored a run in the 5th. Phillies 3 runs, 7 hits. The Mets 5 runs and 8 hits. Freddie Galvis on deck. And Reed misses away with the slider, 1-2. Well, Jerry's Familia made 2 rehab outings. Most recently Monday for Binghamton. I think he threw, what, 6 pitches in one and 9 pitches in the other. But Terry Collins was talking about how when he was down in Florida in Port St. Lucie that he had some 40-pitch outings just to get him ready. It was Geico Sports Night tonight after the post game. Rangers football, baseball. It's all there. You notice we didn't mention the NBA.
Well, we've been getting constant updates by the truck.
Oh, is that what that was about?
Yeah. What Russell Westbrook's been wearing, you know, to the arena tonight. All the important stuff.
Last I checked, the basketball season ended 2 weeks ago.
You college guys.
2-2 to Rupp leading off in the ninth. Hansel Robles stands to be the winning pitcher in this game.
That's on the outside corner, strike 3 call.
Rupp caught looking on the slider and begs to differ with Chad Whitson. 1 man down.
Well, it's 2 times he struck out and had a beef with Whitson. Could be right on that one. Slider.
That is 10 strikeouts for Met pitchers tonight. And now Freddie Galvis, who's gone 1 for 3. Daniel Nava's out on deck to pinch hit. Galvis slugs one down the right field line. Looking toward the corner, and it's off the fence, in play. Bouncing away from Bruce. Galvis on his way to third. And he's in easily with a triple. Galvis flying one down the right field line that smacked against the fence, and Bruce couldn't corral it, and Galvis winds up at third.
I mean, that ball really traveled, hit the bottom of the wall, and bounded back into towards the infield. And Galvis, we talked about maybe not running last night, full throttle tonight.
First triple of the year for Galvis, and that gets the tying run to the plate for the Phillies. Galvis had 3 triples last year, now has 15 for his career. And Daniel Nava, tying run at the plate, will be the pinch hitter. Nava started in left field last night, went 1 for 6. Had a base hit in the 10th inning that put the capper on the Phillies' 6-2 win. Infield back, of course. That's with a 2-run lead. 1 out, top of the 9th. And Nava flies one to deep center field. Should be playable for Granderson. Galvis tags. He'll trot in to score. That cuts the Mets' lead to 5-4 on the sacrifice fly by Nava. But now the Phillies are down to their final out of the night. And Cesar Hernandez coming to the plate. Hernandez is 0 for 4 tonight. Has an 11-game hitting streak on the line. And Reed starts him off with a slider in the dirt for ball 1. On the outside corner, a strike, 1-1. Now Reed's 1-1, fouled off, and now the Phillies are down to their final strike. In an era where relief pitchers take forever to throw the ball, Addison Reed may be the fastest working relief pitcher in the game. He's not messing around.
That'll be part of his strength.
1-2 to Hernandez. And he lays off the slider at his feet. 2-2.
He struck him out, and the ball game is over. Addison Reed registers the save on his final day for the moment as the Mets closer. Jay Bruce hits 2 home runs, drives in all 5, and the Mets snap a 4-game losing streak as they beat the Phillies 5-4.
Well, the Mets are an awfully tough team when they get great start. It's really solid starting pitching like they did from Robert Gsellman tonight, and power, hitting the ball over the fence. When they hit the ball over the fence against the Phillies, they usually win, and Bruce was the big offense for the Mets tonight.
Robert Gsellman became the first Met starter to throw a pitch in the 8th inning. He winds up with a no decision as Hansel Robles gets the win in relief. But Jay Bruce gets a lot of the credit tonight. He provided all the offense in a 5-4 Mets victory as the Mets go back over 500 for the year. They've now won 4 of 5 from the Phillies. Tonight's game summary presented by Spectrum. Robles now 3-0 out of the bullpen as Reed picks up his 4th save of the year, and Bruce provides the offensive fireworks. For every Mets win, the Mets organization is proud to contribute $2,500 to Northwell Health and the Katz Institute for Women's Health. For more information, visit northwellhealth.edu/KIWH. This win brings the total contribution so far this season to $20,000. Addison Reed finishes things off, striking out Cesar Hernandez to end it. The 11th Mets strikeout of the night, and it's enough for a 5-4 win. We'll be right back.